It was a crisp Friday evening when I pulled into the parking lot of the Talbot Hill Conference Center. The air had that early autumn bite, just enough to remind you summer was over but not enough to need a jacket. The sky was streaked with amber and lavender, and for a moment I felt good, really good, in a way I hadn't felt in a while. The company Kaylee worked for was hosting their annual fall event, something she'd mentioned a few times but hadn't seemed too excited about. "It's the usual thing," she'd said. "Name tags, awkward small talk, tiny appetizers. You're not missing much." But I figured I'd surprise her anyway. After 27 years of marriage, I still tried to do the little things. Show up, be present. That mattered once. Didn't it? I even shaved, something I usually reserved for holidays or funerals. Picked out one of the better shirts, matched it with a tie I hadn't worn in years. The Berg asterisk NY one with a faint diagonal stripe. The one she once said made me look less like someone who fixes lawnmowers and more like someone who could fire people. That always made her laugh. I had this idea in my head. I'd walk in a little early, grab us a table, maybe chat with her coworkers, put names to the people I'd heard about for years. Maybe let her see me from across the room and smile that smile she used to give me when she didn't know I was looking. I just didn't expect to see her first. I came in through the side entrance, the one she mentioned staff usually used. Figured it might be quieter, and maybe I'd catch her in a relaxed moment before the official stuff began. There was a soft hum of music drifting from the main ballroom, saxophone-heavy jazz, probably some live band or curated playlist. The hallway was dim, carpeted in that neutral gray you see in conference centers and hotels, lit by sconces that made everything look slightly yellow. That's when I saw her. Kaylee. She was down the hall, just outside one of the private event rooms. Not the ballroom, but a smaller side space. Her back was to me, angled slightly. She looked incredible. Her dark blue dress hugged her just right, and her hair was pinned up in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Not the usual office look. She looked younger somehow, lighter, happy. But that wasn't what stopped me cold. It was the man in the blue suit standing far too close to her. His hand was on her back. Not resting, not guiding, not professional. Stroking. Gentle. Familiar. And her body? She was leaning into him, not in surprise, not just for a second. Like it was where she belonged. I froze. My feet literally stopped moving mid-stride. It wasn't just a hug. I know what a friendly hug looks like. I've been hugged by her coworkers before, the half-pat, shoulder-tap kind. This wasn't that. This was mate. His hand moved in slow circles like they had all the time in the world. Like nobody could see them. And she let him. Worse, she looked like she wanted him to. They didn't see me at first. I had stopped a few paces down the hall, tucked halfway behind a column. My first instinct was to back up, to disappear, to pretend I never saw what I just saw. But I didn't move. Couldn't. My eyes were locked on her. My own wife, Kaylee, in the arms of someone else. Then she looked up. Maybe she sensed me. Maybe he said something that made her turn. Either way, our eyes met. And I will never forget the look on her face. She didn't flinch. Didn't gasp. Didn't pull away from him immediately. No. Her expression shifted in a matter of seconds. Surprise, then calculation, then composure. Like a curtain dropping. She stepped back, casually, smoothed the front of her dress like she had a wrinkle, and adjusted a strand of hair behind her ear. Then she walked toward me. "Hey, babe, you're early," she said, smiling like she'd just run into me at the grocery store. "I thought you said you might not make it tonight." My heart was still hammering, and I hadn't said a word. She gestured toward the man, who had taken a step back but hadn't moved far. "This is Darren," she said, too quickly. "He's an old friend from the Chicago office. He flew in last minute. I haven't seen him in years." Darren nodded at me, all confidence and smooth lines. Tall, polished. No wedding ring. Kaylee continued without missing a beat. "He's going through a rough time. Divorce. It's been hard on him. I was just giving him a little support." Support. That's what she called it. I nodded slowly, unsure what to say. My throat was dry. My stomach had dropped somewhere near my shoes. My first thought was, how long has this been going on? followed by a darker one. How long have I been this blind? She stepped forward and kissed my cheek. Her lipstick left a faint mark, and I instinctively wiped it off. I didn't mean to, it just happened. She noticed. Her smile faded, just for a second, before she recovered. You okay? She asked. I wanted to say a lot of things. I wanted to grab her hand and walk out with her, or grab his collar and throw a punch or just disappear. But I nodded again and forced out a weak, yeah, just surprised, that's all. She laughed too loudly. Well, yeah, you're early. I didn't even get a chance to text you. We were just catching up for a few minutes before the event started. Darren finally spoke. His voice was smooth, like he was used to being in control. Nice to meet you, he said, offering a handshake. I took it. His grip was firm, but I held on longer than necessary, just to let him know I wasn't entirely clueless. Likewise, I said flatly. We stood there in awkward silence for a beat too long. Kaylee finally cleared her throat. We should probably head in, she said, placing her hand on my arm. The main event's about to start. I followed her into the ballroom, but I couldn't hear the music anymore. The lights were too bright, the voices too loud. Everything felt wrong, like I had stepped into a life that wasn't mine. We sat at a round table with her coworkers, people I'd seen once or twice over the years. They smiled, made polite conversation. Kaylee laughed at someone's joke and touched my knee under the table like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just been in someone else's arms 15 minutes earlier. I smiled. I played along. I ate the tiny appetizers. I even complimented the decor. But my mind was spinning. I watched the way she leaned into conversations, how her face lit up at certain names. I noticed how she never mentioned Darren again that night. Not once, like she was hoping I'd forget. And maybe, for a moment, I thought about doing just that. Letting it go. Writing it off as a weird moment. But the image kept replaying in my mind. Her posture, his hand, her face when she saw me. Not fear. Not guilt. Just control. She didn't look like someone caught in a mistake. She looked like someone managing a situation. And suddenly, the air between us, the air that once held comfort, routine, history, felt like it was hiding something. Something I wasn't supposed to know. Something that had already begged asterisk and long before I walked through that door. That night, after the party, we drove home in near silence. She talked a bit about the event, the keynote speaker, the new VP. I nodded, responded, pretended, but everything had changed, and I couldn't unsee what I saw. That night I couldn't sleep. Kaylee had already drifted off, turned away from me, curled in the same position she always used when she didn't want to talk. She said she was tired, that it had been a long day, and I didn't argue. Couldn't. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, arms stiff at my sides, heart ticking like a metronome set too fast. The image of her with Darren played in my mind like a movie I didn't ask to see. Her leaning in, his hand on her back. The casual way she looked at me, like I was the one who needed to calm down. She didn't panic. She didn't apologize. She explained, too quickly, too smoothly, and moved on like nothing had happened. But something had, and I couldn't let it go. I turned over in bed and looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in a while. Her face softened by sleep. Her hair messy now, not pinned up like it was earlier. No makeup, no effort. Just the version of her I used to know. And yet all I could see was that hallway, that look, that man. And suddenly, everything began to click into place. Over the past year, maybe even longer, I'd been feeling it. That slow drift. The space between us growing just wide enough that it became hard to ignore. But I did ignore it. That's the truth. I blamed work. I blamed stress. I blamed aging, routine, life. But now, in the silence of our bedroom, I started tracing the thread back to where it started. It was small at first. The phone, that was the beginning. Kaylee had always left her phone out, screen up, plugged in next to mine. We'd even laugh about it when people talked about couple privacy. We didn't need that. We had nothing to hide. Until one day she put on a passcode. When I asked why, she waved it off. Said something vague about new security policies at work, how a client's email had been hacked or something. I didn't press. I trusted her. Of course I did. 27 years. That kind of time builds blind spots. But then other things shifted. Her text stopped lighting up the screen. Notifications turned off. She stopped laughing at memes in bed. Stopped showing me weird emails from coworkers or **TS of passive-aggressive client messages. All the things that used to be our little moments, gone. Just a quiet screen she turned face down every time she walked away. I told myself it was fine. People change. Privacy isn't a crime. But then came the stories. Or the lack of them. Kaylee used to come home and talk. Not just surface talk. About her coworkers, her frustrations, who messed up the spreadsheet, who microwaved fish in the break room. It was our ritual. I'd pour her a glass of wine, we'd make dinner together, and she'd tell me everything. But over the last year, it dried up. I'd ask, "How was work?" and get a flat, "Same old stuff." I'd probe. She'd deflect. "Nothing interesting today." Every day, nothing interesting. Except now I know there was something. I just wasn't being told. I rolled onto my back again, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding with a slow, creeping dread. There was that one time, maybe 8 or 9 months ago, when she came home wearing a different perfume. It wasn't hers. I know her scent. It's not just something you forget after nearly 3 decades of marriage. This was sharper, more floral, almost too young for her. Not bad, just unfamiliar. She said she tried a sample from a coworker. "You don't like it?" she'd asked, casual as ever. I said it was fine, because I didn't want to make something out of nothing. Now I wonder if it was his, Darren's. I got out of bed around 3 a.m., careful not to wake her, and walked barefoot to the kitchen. The tile was cold, grounding. I poured myself a glass of water, sat down at the counter, and opened my phone. There, buried in my photos, was the picture of that restaurant receipt I found 2 months ago. It had bothered me then. I remember I found it in the glove box when I was looking for her registration. A place called Morrigan's. A trendy fusion spot downtown. Place we'd never been together. "Went there with the girls from the office," she said when I asked. "A little post-client win celebration." I asked who went. She listed names. I nodded. But I knew something was off, because 2 of the names she mentioned didn't match the ones I remembered from previous stories. And when I brought it up later, she changed the subject. I let it slide. Now I zoomed in on the photo. The timestamp read 9:17 p.m. The total? Over $140. 2 entrees, 2 drinks, 1 dessert. Not a group bill. That wasn't the girls. That was dinner for 2. My stomach twisted. I looked around our kitchen. The pale blue walls she insisted on painting last spring. The photo magnet of our last vacation on the fridge. Her favorite coffee mug. The one that says, "Mornings are a crime." All these familiar pieces suddenly felt distant, like they belonged to a play I was no longer cast in. And still, I hadn't confronted her. Not directly. Not yet. Because deep down, I didn't want confirmation. I didn't want the truth spelled out in ink and tears and arguments. I wanted this to be salvageable. I wanted this to be fixable. I wanted to believe that I was wrong. But my instincts, the ones I had spent months shoving down and silencing, were screaming now, telling me the truth was already in front of me. She was pulling away. She had been pulling away for a long time. I just didn't want to see it. I stood and walked slowly down the hall, past our wedding photo. The one we had printed in black and white because she said it looked timeless. Her smile in that photo. My arms around her. We were kids. Hopeful. Certain. I didn't even recognize us anymore. Back in the bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her again. She shifted in her sleep, murmuring something I couldn't make out. I watched the rise and fall of her breathing and wondered what she dreamed about. Who? I tried to picture the version of us from 2-3 years ago. The couple who planned trips, who still flirted, who went grocery shopping and made bad jokes in the cereal aisle. The couple who laughed until they cried watching stand-up specials. The couple who still held hands on the couch for no reason. Where did they go? Was it me? Was it both of us? Or was it just her? And him? I lay down, eyes open, staring at the faint shadows on the ceiling. The room was too quiet. My thoughts were too loud. And for the first time in a long time, I realized how alone I felt, lying next to someone who used to feel like home. The sun started to rise before I finally closed my eyes. And I knew nothing would be the same after this. A week later, Kaylee told me she was leaving town. She said it casually, like it was no big deal. Standing in the kitchen, rinsing her coffee mug, back turned to me. "I've got a business conference out of state," she said. "Just 2 nights. I'll be back late Sunday." Normally, that wouldn't have raised alarms. She'd traveled for work before. But this time, something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. Too smooth, too clean. She didn't look at me when she spoke. Didn't give details unless I asked. And even then, her answers were vague: the city, the hotel, the presentation. Everything sounded right, but nothing felt right. I nodded, said okay, asked if she needed help packing. She smiled. "I've got it." That night, I watched her fold clothes into her suitcase with careful precision. She packed nicer outfits than usual. Dresses she hadn't worn around me in months. Underwear I didn't recognize. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was projecting my fear onto something innocent. But fear has a way of sharpening your senses. The day she left, I went to work like normal. Tried to focus. Failed. My mind kept circling back to one thought. If I'm wrong, then I'm paranoid. But if I'm right, this is the last lie I'll ever swallow. That evening around 7, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark, an old mutual friend. We hadn't talked much lately, but we ran in the same circles. His text was short. "Hey, weird question. Is Kaylee supposed to be out of town right now?" My heart dropped. I typed back, fingers shaking. "Yeah, why?" There was a pause. Then, "I thought so. I just saw her at the Ridgeway Mall. Figured I'd ask before I said something stupid." The room went quiet. No background noise. No thoughts. Just that sentence echoing in my head. The Ridgeway Mall was 40 minutes away. Not near any airport. Not near any conference center. And definitely not on the way out of town. I thanked him. Told him not to worry about it. Sat down on the couch and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I remembered the GPS. A year ago, we'd installed a shared location tracker on our phones. Kaylee's idea. Just in case, she'd said. Emergencies. Safety. A few months later, she claimed she deleted it. Said it drained her battery. I never checked. Until that moment. My hands were steady when I opened the app. That surprised me. I half expected them to shake. But instead, everything felt eerily calm. Like my body already knew what I was about to see. The map loaded. Her dot wasn't moving. It was stationary. Pinned at a place called the Sandstone Inn. A roadside hotel. Cheap. Anonymous. The kind of place people don't accidentally end up at. I didn't think. I grabbed my keys and left. The drive felt unreal. Like I was watching myself from above. My hands on the wheel. The streetlights blurring past. My heartbeat loud in my ears. I kept expecting doubt to creep in. To second-guess myself. But it never came. When I pulled into the parking lot, I saw her car immediately. Same license plate. Same dent on the rear bumper. I parked a few spaces away and sat there, breathing slowly, staring straight ahead. I told myself I would only look. That I wouldn't make a scene. That I wouldn't confront her unless I absolutely had to. Then I saw them. Kaylee was standing outside one of the ground floor rooms, laughing, her body relaxed, free. And next to her, holding her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world, was the man from the conference. Darren. He leaned in and said something that made her laugh harder. Not polite laughter. Real laughter. The kind I hadn't heard from her in a long time. Then she did something that shattered whatever denial I had left. She reached up, slipped her wedding ring off, and tucked it into her purse before they went inside. No hesitation. No pause. Like it was routine. I didn't follow them. I didn't knock. I didn't scream or cry or demand answers. I sat there until the door closed. until the light inside went off, until there was nothing left to see. Sometime later, I curled up in the driver's seat and slept, if you can call it that. My body shut down before my mind could catch up. The next morning, I drove home as the sun came up. I didn't go inside. I stayed in the car, parked across the street, watching the house we'd built our life in. And for the first time, I understood something with terrifying clarity. It was over. When I finally stepped through the front door, it was just after 9 a.m. The house was still, quiet, the kind of silence that feels deliberate. Kaylee wasn't back yet. Or maybe she was, and she'd gone straight to bed like nothing had happened. I walked into the kitchen and stood there for a long time. The sunlight streamed in through the window above the sink. Dust floated in the air. It should have felt familiar, but it didn't. Everything around me was just off, like I'd walked into a replica of our home. Not the real thing. Same layout, same photos, but no warmth, no meaning. I didn't make breakfast. I didn't pour coffee. I didn't even sit down. Instead, I opened the drawer next to the fridge, pulled out a notepad, the one we kept for grocery lists and reminders, and wrote a short letter. Nothing poetic, nothing dramatic. Just, Kaylee, I saw everything. Don't contact me. I need time. I folded it in half, placed it on the counter next to her favorite coffee mug, and left the house. I didn't slam the door. I didn't pack a bag like someone storming out. I just walked out, quiet, final, like a man slipping away from his own life. I drove nowhere for a while, just got on the freeway and let the road pull me wherever it wanted. Past exits I didn't recognize, past places we used to visit together, through towns where no one knew my name. I kept waiting to cry, but nothing came, just a tight, hollow feeling in my chest, like something was caving in, but not enough to collapse yet. Sometime that afternoon, I found a small town off the highway with a main street, a diner, and a rundown real estate office. I parked and walked in without a plan. I need a place to stay, I told the woman behind the desk. Something quiet, short-term. She eyed me for a second, then handed me a list. By sunset, I'd signed a short-term lease on a tiny studio above an antique shop. The floor creaked, the plumbing groaned, and the windows stuck. But it had a bed, a stove, and no memories. That night I slept with the fan on, not for the heat, but for the noise. Anything to drown out the silence. I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to feel something. Anger, sadness, rage. But all I felt was stillness, like I'd bled out all my emotion in one invisible wound. The next morning, I woke up with the sun pouring through the blinds. My phone buzzed. I didn't look. I didn't care. That became my routine. Wake up, ignore the phone, walk into town, eat, breathe, repeat. It was strange how easy it was to disappear. One moment I was someone's husband, a man with bills, routines, a calendar full of shared obligations. The next, I was just a guy in a quiet town no one cared to question. No one asked where I came from. No one pried. And I liked it that way. The first few days, I didn't talk to anyone. I'd sit in the corner booth of the diner with eggs and toast and pretend to read the local paper. I watched people. Old couples sharing pancakes. Teenagers on their way to school. Middle-aged men in work boots talking shop. All of them living lives untouched by betrayal. Or maybe touched by it, but already healed. Sometimes I wondered what story Kaylee was telling. Maybe she said I overreacted. Maybe she said it was a misunderstanding. Or maybe, and this was worse, maybe she didn't say anything at all. Maybe she just moved on. Erased me. I thought about the years we spent together. 27 of them. Longer than some people stay alive. And all it took was one moment. One hallway, one hotel, one lie too many, to reduce it to silence. I didn't call the kids. That's the part one still wrestle with. They're adults, 2 boys, both in their 20s, out of the house, building lives of their own. I'd always wanted to protect them from the cracks in our marriage. And now I was afraid I'd shattered everything without warning. But I wasn't ready to explain. Not yet. Not until I understood it myself. One night, about a week into my self-exile, I walked down to the lake just outside town. It was quiet, serene. I sat on a bench by the shore and watched the moon reflect off the water like it had somewhere better to be. A couple walked past me, hand in hand. They looked young, maybe in love, maybe lying to each other. Who knows? And all I could think was, she made her choice. Not just the hotel, not just Darren, but everything leading up to it. The locked phone, the distance, the absence of conversation, the refusal to meet my eyes when I asked where she'd been. None of it was accidental. You don't slide into betrayal. You walk there, step by step, telling yourself the whole way that it's okay, that you deserve it, that no one's getting hurt, except someone always does. And that someone was me. I stayed at the studio, kept to myself, paid cash for groceries, let my hair grow a little longer, stopped shaving, started reading again old books I hadn't touched in years. Steinbeck, Vonnegut, whatever was left behind on the shelf. It reminded me who I used to be before I became a husband defined by someone else's decisions. I didn't block Kaylee's number, but I didn't answer either. The messages kept coming, first once a day, then multiple. Some short, some long, some angry, some pleading. I read a few, skimmed others. They all blurred together into one sentence. Please come back. But there was no apology. Not really, just panic. She didn't say I was wrong. She didn't say I chose him. She said, it got out of hand. She said, I never meant to hurt you. She said, we can fix this. But there's no fixing a wound that deep without cutting it open all the way. She never asked me what I needed, never asked what I saw, never told the truth without being cornered. And that was the moment I knew, not just that she cheated, but that she never believed I would leave. That's the part that hurt more than the affair itself. She thought I would absorb it, swallow it, rage for a while, then settle back into my role. The man who cooked Sunday breakfast, who remembered anniversaries even when she forgot, who took the garbage out and folded the towels the way she liked. She thought she could lie and I'd stay. But I didn't. I left, not out of anger, not for revenge, but because I needed to remember who I was before her shadow stretched across every part of my life. I needed silence without resentment, space without suspicion, a future not filtered through disappointment. I disappeared not to punish her, but to save myself. And if that meant starting over in a quiet town with bad plumbing and secondhand furniture, so be it. It was still better than pretending everything was fine in a house where I was no longer wanted. It was the 5th morning since I'd left. I was sitting at the little kitchen table in the studio, eating a plastic cup of yogurt with a disposable spoon. The fan buzzed overhead. The air smelled faintly of old wood and coffee grounds. I hadn't spoken to a single person in 2 days, hadn't needed to. My phone was off. I kept it buried in the sock drawer, like it was radioactive. Still, I checked it once a day, powered it on long enough to read the texts from Kaylee before switching it off again. They'd gone from, can we talk? To please, just one reply to, I'm scared. That one stuck with me, not because it moved me, but because it rang hollow. She was scared now? Now that I'd vanished? After weeks, months, maybe longer, of making me feel like I didn't matter? I wasn't angry. Not really. What I felt was more like distance. Like watching your old house burn down from a mile away and realizing you don't even want to run toward it. I took a walk that morning, down the gravel trail that ran past the lake and curled through the woods behind the antique store. It was a gray day, not raining but threatening to. The kind of day that matched the inside of your head. When I got back, I knew something was off. There was a car parked out front that didn't belong. A white sedan, newer model. Clean. Too clean for this town. I slowed down as I approached. My stomach tightened before I saw her. She was sitting on the steps leading up to the apartment, her elbows on her knees, coffee in both hands like a peace offering. Kaylee. She didn't see me right away. Her head was down, hair in a messy bun, no makeup. She was wearing the old hoodie I used to keep in the back seat of my truck, the one she'd always steal when we went on road trips and gas stations were too cold. It looked strange on her now, like it belonged to someone else. I stopped at the edge of the lot, heart pounding, not with fear, but with something colder. Not dread, not longing, just inevitability. She looked up. Our eyes met, and just like that, the past year collapsed into the present. She stood slowly, holding the coffee out like it mattered. "I didn't know what kind you drink here," she said quietly, "but I figured you still take it black." I didn't take it. She looked thinner, tired. Her skin was pale. She hadn't slept, that much was clear. But more than that, she looked out of place. Like a character from a different movie who accidentally wandered onto the wrong set. "I had to find you," she said. "You weren't answering. I didn't know if you were okay." "I'm fine," I said flatly. She hesitated. "Can we go inside?" I said nothing, just walked past her and unlocked the door. I left it open behind me. If she wanted to follow, she could. She stepped in and looked around. The space was small and she looked too big for it. Her eyes landed on the mattress on the floor, the folding chair, the pile of paperbacks on the nightstand. "This is where you've been?" she asked, almost to herself. I nodded. "It's quiet." She stood in the middle of the room, not knowing where to sit, not knowing what to touch. For a moment, we were just two people sharing oxygen, nothing more. Then she spoke. "I'm sorry." She said it so simply I almost missed it. No build-up, no tears, just two words. "I'm sorry, Mark. I don't know what happened to me. I got lost somewhere." I looked at her, really looked. Her eyes were red. Her lips were chapped. She had a crumpled tissue in her hand. She looked like a woman trying to rewind a tape that was already melted. "I don't need an apology," I said. That stopped her. She blinked. "Then what do you need?" I thought about that for a moment, and the truth surprised even me. "Nothing," I said. "That's the whole point." She stepped forward, desperate now. "Please, please don't shut me out. I know I broke something. I know I don't deserve another chance. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix it. I'll quit my job. I'll block Darren. I'll delete every app. I'll go to therapy. We can go together." She was crying now, quietly, not the dramatic kind, just soft, exhausted tears that slid down her cheeks and soaked into her collar. "I'll move here," she said. "I'll rent a place down the street. I won't ask for anything. Just let me be near you." I let her finish. I let her pour out every desperate word. Then I finally spoke. "You didn't come here because you love me," I said. "You came here because you're afraid of losing the life you built around me." She opened her mouth, then stopped. I kept going. "You want to fix it because you don't want to feel guilty, because you don't want to start over, because you don't want to be the one who ruined everything. That's not love, Kaylee. That's damage control." She shook her head, wiping her face. "No, that's not true. I love you. I always have. I made a mistake." "You made a series of choices," I corrected. Silence. She looked around the apartment again, like seeing it through new eyes. The bare walls, the uneven floor, the folding chair. "This place is awful," she whispered. "It's peaceful," I replied. She stood there for a while longer, tears slowing, face unreadable. I could see the fight going out of her, the performance ending, the realization sinking in. "Is there really nothing I can say?" she asked. I thought about it, not out of cruelty, but honesty. "No," I said, "because the part of me that would have believed you left days ago." She nodded, once, slowly. Then she set the coffee down on the windowsill, turned, and walked out. I didn't follow. I sat down on the mattress and listened to her car pull away. The sound of tires on gravel, the engine fading into the distance, until all that was left was the hum of the fan and the stillness of the room. She was gone. And this time, I didn't feel like something had been taken from me. I felt like I'd reclaimed something I hadn't even realized was missing. Myself. A week later, we met at the house, not for closure, not for healing. Just logistics. We sat at the dining table like strangers splitting up a shared meal. She wanted the dog, the car, some furniture. Offered me the cabin property in return. Her tone was calm, almost practiced, like she was negotiating a contract. not ending a marriage. I signed the papers without looking at her. I didn't ask why. I didn't offer grace. There was nothing left to salvage. The woman I had loved was gone, and the one across from me now was just a shadow of who she'd been. I walked out without a goodbye. I moved closer to the lake, joined a local family business. No big money, but peace. Real peace. I read the paper every Saturday with coffee in hand, watching the water ripple under morning sun. I stopped waiting for apologies, stopped checking my phone. I listen to red flags now. I trust the silence. People ask what happened, why I vanished. I just smile and say, sometimes to find yourself, you have to let go completely. And I did. I left with nothing and gained everything.